Hey everyone, and welcome to Octagon News. Here's what we've highlighted for you today. Social media is on fire after Francis Ngannou's incredible PFL knockout of Renan Ferreira. Nate Diaz has gone off on Brendan Schaub in classic Nate fashion, and Conor McGregor is back at it again, this time beefing with none other than Belal Muhammad. Stick around as we break it all down. The next chapter of Francis Ngannou's MMA career got off to a strong start as the Predator earned the PFL's heavyweight superfight championship with a first-round TKO win over Renan Ferreira. Francis wasted little time in showing that he remembered he can wrestle. That early takedown marked the beginning of the end for Ferreira. Francis maintained top position, fought off a triangle choke attempt from his opponent before getting Ferreira's back and going for the TKO. He rained down strikes until the referee was forced to call the bout. The win marked the first time that Francis has fought in MMA since his contract with the UFC expired in early 2022. The former heavyweight champion entered free agency after his title defense against Cyril Gane. Francis ultimately landed with the PFL. Part of that decision was because the organization was willing to allow him to pursue his dream of boxing. This victory showed that Francis is still capable of putting on elite performances against top heavyweights. Ferreira hasn't won in the UFC, but he did win the PFL's heavyweight tournament and knocked out Bellator heavyweight champion Ryan Bader. The question will quickly shift to whether PFL can find another challenge for Francis that will bring attention to the promotion. So happy for Francis. Nice finish. Congrats, Francis. Francis' life is an Oscar-winning movie. Francis deserves it all. Scary man. Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones. That's what I want. That's what you want. Repost this now. We'll never get to see Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones, and that will go down as the biggest what if in MMA history. Francis Ngannou lost his son earlier this year. He said when he's done, he hopes the world remembers his son Kobe's name. Wow. Francis Ngannou is the best heavyweight around, hands down. To be considered the best, you have to beat Francis. Today we've done the research. How much did Francis really make in the UFC? What are his boxing earnings? And how much is he earning from his PFL contract? We've crunched the numbers, and trust me, the final answer to who fumbled the bag might surprise you. Let's dive in. Francis Ngannou may not be ready to lay out exactly how much he's making outside the UFC, but that doesn't mean we can't figure it out ourselves. Dana White recently claimed Francis would have made more money in the UFC than he's getting through boxing and the PFL, and Francis denied that, calling the UFC contract a trap and White's claims a lie.
Because I know all the shit that you people don't know. And I don't care what everybody says. It doesn't matter to me. But that's a fact. He was offered more money because I know the real numbers.
So who is telling the truth? Our in-depth investigation has uncovered the exact figures UFC offered Francis to stay with the organization. After analyzing insider sources and management reports, we can now reveal the full breakdown of what Francis could have earned had he chosen to remain with the UFC. Francis was offered a deal that basically paid $4 to $5 million as champion, and this was after the Cyril Gane fight. The final offer the UFC made was against Jon Jones. He would get $8 million plus pay-per-view, so around, if you did 1 million buys, he'd make over $10 million. If you did $1.5 million, which was the projected amount that Jones versus Ngannou would do, it was up to $13 million. If he fought 3 times, if he fought Jones back-to-back, he would make a lot of money. But if Jones didn't take the fight, or if one of them got beat so badly there wasn't a rematch or whatever, his rate would drop for his other fights. So down again to about 4 or 5, maybe 6 million max, depending on what the final offer was, and all the other variables plus pay-per-view. Francis has already made Jones super fight money twice since leaving the UFC. He made 12 or 13 million around that for Tyson Fury and 15-16 million in that ballpark for Joshua fight. You put those two together and he made about $28 million. After analyzing UFC and boxing earnings, we also investigated Francis's potential income from the PFL. Here's what the numbers reveal. PFL matched the UFC's $8 million offer, so $8 million, and then on top of that, he had a big signing bonus, 7 figures. Again, my understanding is about $2 million. The PFL's 2-fight deal has Francis earning $8 million for his first fight and $12 million for his second, plus additional pay-per-view and gate bonuses. Due to lower sales from it being a non-UFC pay-per-view held in Saudi Arabia, Francis is expected to walk away with approximately $10 million from his Battle of the Giants showdown against Renan Ferreira on October 19th. So how does the UFC offer stack up to what Francis has gotten elsewhere? Not badly. If everything went perfectly to plan, Francis would have had to win all his fights, stay champion, and win the elusive Jon Jones sweepstakes possibly twice to match. 2 Jones super fights and a title fight would hypothetically make him around $31 million. Let's say he wasn't perfect. The amount of money might have fallen to like $15 to $18 million easily, but he's going to make close to $50 million on 4 fights in a 2-year span since leaving the UFC. For the world of MMA, that's a pretty impressive amount. That's more than anybody but Conor McGregor. Not bad for a man who fumbled the bag. Brendan Schaub is finally firing back at his haters. For several years, the former UFC heavyweight has consistently found himself on the receiving end of online hate comments from fans and fellow fighters. Schaub usually turns the other cheek, but he refused to do so after being insulted by Nate Diaz for no apparent reason. Schaub and Diaz famously clashed backstage at Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor in 2017, and now 7 years later, their beef has seemingly restarted out of nowhere. Diaz took to X to give Schaub a new and unkind nickname that promoted a violent outburst from Brendan Schaub. Brendan the big ol' Schaub. Schaub lets a lot of things go unchecked, but he felt compelled to fire back at his former UFC colleague, who he challenged to a grappling match that he's confident would end with Diaz getting seriously injured. Ooh, buddy, I probably got 20 pounds on you, so not too far off. I'll snap your neck. Set up a grappling match and let me know how it goes for you. Have one of your handlers read this tweet and get back to me. UFC welterweight champion Belal Muhammad has dismissed Conor McGregor's recent social media attack. Muhammad recently acquired the UFC's welterweight crown by dominating Leon Edwards at UFC 304. McGregor fired verbal shots at Muhammad, criticizing his fighting style and drawing power, while vowing to become a 3-division champion. I'd love to crush my left hook into Belal's temple and take down the Triple Crown. I'd do it easily and fast. To think this bum is now a UFC champion with 0 knockdowns on his resume whatsoever is so bad. The UFC's most abysmal 0 revenue-generating fighter in modern history. McGregor, who won titles in the UFC's featherweight and lightweight divisions, has 3 times at 170 pounds in the UFC. Not only does Muhammad not see a path for a potential showdown in the Octagon, he believes McGregor's fighting career is over. I don't think he fights again ever. I think that he's in that part of his life now where he's starting to realize people are starting to forget about him. He loves that attention so much, so when he sees something happening in the UFC that's getting headlines, he wants to take that attention. I think he needs to hit rehab first. Once he gets clear and clean, then he can get back in the gym and get back to working out. What do you think about this beef between Conor and Belal, and who do you think would win if they met in the Octagon right now? Share your opinion in the comments. UFC welterweight champion Belal Muhammad has explained why he believes he will defeat Shavkat Rakhmonov at UFC 310. At UFC 310 on December 7th, Belal Muhammad will put his UFC welterweight championship on the line. It will mark his first fight since dethroning Leon Edwards earlier this summer, as he prepares to take on arguably the scariest contender in the division. Shavkat Rakhmonov is an undefeated wrecking machine at 170 pounds. He has been able to tear through everyone the UFC has put in his way thus far, and he's showing no signs of slowing down. Ahead of their contest, with a lot of fans and pundits backing Rakhmonov, Muhammad has defended himself and expressed his confidence in the matchup. He's mentally tough, he's mentally strong, and if it comes down to grit for grit, he's gonna beat a lot of these guys based off of his toughness and his will to win. Now you're going against someone with a stronger will. Now you're going against somebody that's tougher. Now you're going against somebody that won't back down, won't fold. He will be under pressure and I will beat him. Who do you think will win? Belal Muhammad or Shavkat Rakhmonov? Share your thoughts in the comments below. That's it for today. If you enjoyed the breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Let us know in the comments, who do you think fumbled the bag with Francis? See you in the next one.